What is going on, everyone? My name is Jason, and this is the new iPhone SE versus the iPhone 13 mini. Okay, in the world of iPhones, the two that are going to be the most unusual and definitely the most polarizing is going to be number one, the new 2022 iPhone SE and the relatively new iPhone 13 mini. They both have their fair share of ardent supporters as well as haters, as there are some that really embrace this not so common compact form factor that both the SE and the mini bring to the table, while others straight up see both as unusable in today's world. But if you're in the market for a new iPhone this year that you can comfortably carry around and use with one hand, both of these phones are going to look quite appealing. Especially with the most recent release of the new 2022 iPhone SE that only costs $429, it would seem as though that this would be the best option for those in this category. But as someone who's used both phones, I would highly advise you not to sleep on the iPhone 13 mini because to me it's one of the best iPhones I've ever used. So today I want to go over 3 specific reasons why the 13 mini is a far better phone than the new iPhone SE, just in case you're on the fence between the two. Now before we get into the review, in case you're new here, I'm Jason. I would really appreciate it if you take a quick second to press that thumbs up button. It really does help out solo creators like myself get a little bit more traction on their videos, so please help a brother out. And in case you're a tech junkie like me, I make a video like this every single week, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date with all the reviews. And before I get into it, do me a favor, let me know in the comments which phone you prefer, the new iPhone SE or the iPhone 13 mini. Curious to get your thoughts, let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments down below. Okay, the first reason why the 13 mini is a way better phone than the new 2022 iPhone SE is because of its form factor. To say that the new SE's design is old is almost putting it nicely at this point, as it's surprising to see such a dated form factor still being used on a new phone in 2022. Now I know some people love the classic Apple design that this phone uses, but it definitely comes with some drawbacks. First and foremost, the display on the new SE is pretty tiny for today's standards. It clocks in at only 4.7 inches, and with it being flanked with a jarring forehead and chin, there's really no other way to describe it other than unusually small. And I personally find that it makes consuming certain content more difficult to do, especially reading the news or browsing the internet. And it definitely doesn't provide for the more immersive experience that most modern phones are able to give with the existence of this gaping forehead and chin. Now you may be in the camp that says, hey, the main reason I want this phone is because of its small footprint. It's more easy for me to carry around, and I'll take a hit in terms of screen size because to me, it's worth it having this form factor. Well, if that is you, trust me when I say that you're gonna love the iPhone 13 mini. From a physical dimension standpoint, it's actually smaller than the new iPhone SE, which makes it noticeably more easy and comfortable to hold in one hand. This is especially true as the 13 mini has the modern iPhone design with the completely flat frame, and it's to me one of the most compact, easy to carry around iPhones to date. More importantly, the 13 mini has that edge-to-edge display, so you don't have that atrocious forehead and chin, and even though the phone itself is physically smaller, you get a noticeably larger 5.4 inches of screen real estate. So not only is the user experience so much nicer, it doesn't look like the phone is 8 years old. All in all, I feel as though the iPhone 13 mini is just a way smarter design that gives users the best of both worlds. You get a very comfortable and compact form factor, but with a modern sized display that won't cheapen the user experience. Now let's talk a little bit more about that display. It's actually the second reason why the 13 mini just completely blows the SE out of the water, and let's start with the hardware. Believe it or not, the 2022 iPhone SE is still using Apple's notorious sub 1080p LCD panel, which comes in at a pretty paltry resolution of 1334 by 750. So not only is it egregiously small for today's standards, to add insult to injury, it's also very outdated in terms of specs. Now I've always been upfront about Apple's LCD displays they've been using for some time now. Honestly, they look fine. I don't have any major beef when it comes to resolution, as most of the content that I consume comes out totally acceptable. But at the same time, I don't think that it should give Apple a pass and just expect reviewers like myself to just gloss over it because, dude, it's 2022, you're one of the biggest phone manufacturers in the world, and 1080p has been the minimum resolution standard for years now. And on top of all of that, you're gonna sandwich this tiny thing between an ancient forehead and chin? I think it's fair to say that there's really not a lot to get excited about here. Now the good news is that the 13 mini's display, I mean, it's like night and day different in the best way possible. So not only is it significantly bigger, this is a Super Retina XDR OLED panel that comes in at a resolution of 2340 by 1080, and man, it's a beautiful display. Compared to the new iPhone SEs, it's noticeably brighter and more vibrant with its colors. You get far better contrast as this is an OLED and you get those inky blacks, and it's a pretty jarring difference in quality, especially when watching HDR content. But more than the quality around the better hardware, the real difference comes with the increased size. 5.4 inches doesn't sound the biggest, especially in today's market, but because it's an edge-to-edge display, I legit find this screen to be just as enjoyable and immersive as the regular size iPhones. Watching videos and playing games is great, and even reading the news is no problem. It's just as immersive to where I never feel as though the size is impeding my experience. Plus, you also get the added benefit of having Face ID as opposed to Touch ID on the 13 mini. Y'all can fight me on this, but hot take, I am a firm believer that Face ID is the best biometric security system on any phone right now, and by a large margin. And look, I know some people hate the notch, but for me, it's a pretty small price to pay for such an outstanding piece of hardware, and it's considerably better than having the SE's forehead chin. I mean, at the end of the day, the display on the 13 mini is better in virtually every way possible. It's exponentially more advanced hardware than the new SEs, and it's so much more engaging to use with its larger size. And that brings me to the last reason why the 13 mini is just a way better phone over the new iPhone SE, and that's performance. So the main and probably the only real selling point around going with the new SE is that it's equipped with Apple's latest A15 Bionic processor, which no doubt is a big deal and is an upgrade that should be recognized. As it's the same chip that's on the iPhone 13 mini, it'll give the phone a ton of speed and reliability for a pretty extended amount of time, which is great if you're planning on using this phone for a good while. But it is kind of weird because even though the new iPhone SE is being powered by this absolute behemoth of an engine, it really doesn't have a lot to do because the rest of the components on this phone are just so dated. Like, you can't take advantage of some of the iPhone's newest camera features like night mode, which is pretty disappointing, and I'm not really sure why Apple didn't include this feature on the new SE. You can't use cinematic mode when shooting video or shoot in Dolby Atmos HDR, even though it probably has the horsepower to do so. Now, I will give credit to where credit is due. The new SE's cameras do extremely well when it comes to image quality and video. It's pretty incredible given the price point. But the camera hardware is limited as it's using the iPhone 8's cameras, which means only one wide-angle camera on the back and a pretty dated 7-megapixel front-facing camera on the front. Now, when it comes to battery life, this is another area of performance where the iPhone 13 mini is just going to do better. The 2020 iPhone SE had what I would describe as subpar battery life, which isn't too surprising as it was equipped with a rather small battery, and even though Apple claims that the new SE can get up to 2 hours more than the previous model, it's not going to give the same amount of screen on time as the 13 mini. The 13 mini's battery life is kind of extraordinary given that, again, this phone is more compact than the SE, but Apple did make the phone a tad thicker in order to house a bigger battery, and I've been averaging around 6.5 to 7 hours of screen on time with the 13 mini, which is pretty outstanding. So even in the one area in which the new SE made a meaningful investment, the 13 mini is still going to outperform it and provide more features along the way. So at this point, I wouldn't be surprised nor blame you if you were saying something like, Jason, bro, of course the iPhone 13 mini is better. It's in a completely different league. The SE is supposed to be a budget iPhone, man. And look, I'm not going to really disagree with that, but let's really break this down. The base model iPhone 13 mini comes in at $699 US, while the new 2022 iPhone SE starts at $429. So yes, the price difference is significant, but let's do a quick run through of everything that you're getting with the higher price tag. First, the base model 13 mini comes with 128GB of internal storage, which is double that of the base model SE. So you get some extra value right off the bat. You get a larger Super Retina XDR OLED display, Apple's Face ID security system, way better camera sensors, and an additional ultra-wide angle camera, better battery life, better form factor, a phone that doesn't look like it's 10 years old. You get my point here. So yes, it is more expensive, but with all of those added benefits, it really could be a far better investment in terms of what you're getting for your money. That said, if getting to $699 is too much of a stretch financially, you should really consider the 12 mini because you can get that phone brand new right now for only $599 and get like 98% of what the 13 mini has. You'll be stuck with 64GB of storage, last year's A14 Bionic, and not as good battery life, but it's still way better value over the new SE in my opinion. And look, at the end of the day, I don't want to dog the new SE too much. It's a solid phone that will serve you well should you decide to go with it. But I'm confident that you'll be so much happier if you save a little bit more money and go for either the iPhone 12 or 13 mini. You just get so much more with those phones. But hey, that's just me, and I want to know what you guys think. Which phone do you think has better value? The iPhone 13 mini or the new iPhone SE? Let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments down below. Okay, that's about it for this review. Don't forget to leave me a thumbs up if you guys found it useful. Again, I'd really appreciate it. Check out these other reviews if you're looking for more, and I'll see you guys in the next one.